And thanks everyone for joining once again. And a big thank you to Denise Monroe, who pitched in not just 1 week, but 2 weeks in a row on my behalf with some personal issues, and then LaGuardia Airport, which was crazy last week. So let me start my screen here.
Okay. It ran so much smoother too. It's great.
What's that?
It ran so much smoother too.
It did not.
Oh,
Fletch.
thanks, Fletch. Thanks for that.
Behave.
I'm glad you guys have all this love on this call. It's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
We might even share it with you at some point, Larry. So you know.
No, that was last week. I got the love. Last week I got all the
Oh,
love.
fantastic. So we have Scott on for part B or part 2 of hybrid workforce. I heard it was excellent 2 weeks ago, and we have him back for part 2. So again, I know that there was a number of questions 2 weeks ago. So thank you, Scott, for all of your contributions. And of course, you know, this is one of those very hot topics out there as we're coming out of COVID. So a big thank you to our colleagues over at Extreme Networks. Not only was Larry Baker, the manager of network operations, on, but his boss, John Sable, the CIO of all of Extreme Networks. So interestingly, they actually were presenting the case or the situation that they had to deal with hybrid workforce as a company, not really as a sales group, but actually as a user group who had to deal with it. So it was a great talk. I listened in. And again, you know, for any member, you can listen to a recap, you know, online, and it's very powerful. So a quick quote. This is actually someone's desktop. So I saw this on LinkedIn. Steve Forkham is actually a very good friend of mine from Avaya. So he wrote, "This morning's office, work is not somewhere you go, it's something you do." So I just thought for today that was very appropriate. And he is now Director and Chief Evangelist, by the way. So again, we have Scott Murphy back this week. Fletch, we'll give you a quick attaboy for your, for your infomercial here. Go ahead. Oh, you got to come off mute, Fletch. Still not off mute. Oh, he's having issues. So each week, I'll speak for Fletch here. Fletch is actually doing these bi-monthly VAC webinars. They're very successful. We just had one on Google last week, right, Fletch, if I remember. And then again, we've got these opportunities for all VAC members to do a 60-second infomercial on these fireside chats. So please approach Fletch. Go ahead, Fletch, you can finish up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we've got, Google was a great webinar last week. We've got TalkDesk, Extreme, Eastern Datacom, another new VAC member showing up, and Granite scheduled for the rest of this, or for the remainder through September. I've still, for any VAC members that are out there, I've still got about 5 or 6 slots open before our year ends. So great opportunity to present content to the consultant community, and it gets archived. The bulk of our listenership is on the playbacks. So be sure to get a hold of me. And I need one of those. Somebody's got to invent a big old mute button where you can go on and off quickly.
And if I'm not mistaken, if anybody has seen the post for the SCT conference coming up in September, which Denise will talk about in a moment, Fletch was the author of the and producer of that. A fantastic video. Thank you, Fletch, for that.
Well, actually, I didn't write it. I think Denise wrote it.
Oh, okay.
I just produced it and voiced it.
Okay, great. Dave Clardy.
Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great Canada Day and Independence Day here in the U.S. Long weekend. And I just want to remind all of the VAC members that you know, as we move through this year, we have an extreme focus on increasing the amount of consultants that are within this organization. And I'd just like to put out there to all the VAC members, if you could encourage just one consultant in your program, 2 would be great, to join the SCTC or take a look at it. I think we would quadruple our numbers over time. And all of us know those consultants that are just hanging out and saying, well, I really don't know if I should join or not. You know, reach out to one of the consultants on this call, whether it's Denise or Steve Layden or Chuck Vondra. They're all willing to get on a call with you. But I'm going to challenge the entire VAC community. Let's get our consultant friends, headcount up this year. And it just makes life so much easier for us as we move into 2023. And have a great rest of the summer and look forward to seeing you soon, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Denise, you're up.
All right, can I share my screen, Steve, for just a moment?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. Hope everyone is having a great week. And let's see. Big announcements. The call for speakers is now open for the conference. And I wanted to share with you that we have 2 keynote speakers joining us this year. Michael Young's the Vice President of Information Technology at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, will speak on This is the Year of Communications. He's a very dynamic speaker in charge of one of the largest IT operations in terms of airports in the country. So that will be a really exciting informational session. And then our dear friend, Hank Hunt, President and CEO of the Carrie Hunt Foundation, will be our Day 2 keynote, and he will talk more about where things are with regard to organizations complying with Carrie's law, and then of course the Ray Bombs Act. So super excited about them. The call for speakers is now open. We will be posting this on the website here shortly, and you'll get an email link to it. But this platform, you'll be able to register for the organization, see the block agenda, register for your hotel and everything. And then there's a link to submit a session idea. So super excited about it. The team here working on this conference is doing just a bang up job in terms of pulling together really a powerful program. So we really hope you all will join us. We are going to do an optional event at Topgolf. For those of you arriving Sunday or a little before, I will be sending out Denise Monroe's things to do in the Dallas area, so you'll get the insider scoop on that. And then the Sip Tones will most likely be joining us, as well as we are going to be hosting Texas barbecue, backyard barbecue, the way only us Texans can do it. So look forward to some really great Southern hospitality as well. So we're looking forward to you guys joining us for this really fun event. And then you probably get an email from me today about a new member benefit that we will be rolling out this week. And I'm going to turn it over to Barbara Bush to give us some insight into that.
Yep, hold on one second. I'm going to pull up my screen again. And where is that? Oh, here we go. Okay, yep, so this is a new member benefit, and Barbara's going to take it away. Barbara, the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It is afternoon in the East Coast, sorry. And Barbara Bush, Telcom Corp, member since 1997. I'm one of the old timers. And I just would like to say that I have COVID. So if I don't sound great or look great, I apologize. We are looking at something here that looks a little bit like Fred Flintstone. Why? Because isn't everybody sick of trying to find each other on email? And I certainly am. And when I say each other, I mean SCTC members, not just members, but our vendor council members as well. And just as an example, there are so many Steves in SCTC, and I needed to email Steve Ledden, and I was like, which Steve is he? And it was so much easier on a platform. I hope you'll agree that email is not the easiest way to communicate with a closed group of people. And the SCTC thought that our members deserved better. Next slide.
Sure.
So just as a reminder, the SCTC is, after all, a society of communications technology consultants and our technology vendors. So we're going to use technology starting now. Next slide. So introducing Bitrix 24. It's a collaboration platform similar to Teams and Slack and some other things out there. The SCTC committee, who reviewed literally hundreds of collaboration programs, and Bitrix 24 was the winner. Why? Because it had everything. And I think that over time, you'll start to see why. So let's meet your new SCTC paid member benefit.
Mhm.
Next slide. Thank
Sure.
you. Okay, so excuse me. So the thing that it works the most like is Facebook and Facebook Messenger, or Meta Facebook and Meta Messenger put together. Feed is just like Facebook feed. There's posts, and you can put whatever posts you want up there. They can include pictures and files, all kinds of things. Members can comment on those posts, again, just like a Facebook post. Posts can include polls and emojis and all kinds of other things, which can be helpful to set up meetings and take a pulse on solutions that you're trying. Let's go to the next slide. I'm kind of speeding through these. I wanted you to see what Bittrex actually look like. Here is an example of a post that I started. I didn't submit it. That's the send button in the bottom left corner. As you can see at the top, welcome to Bittrex, exclamation point, that's your topic. That's what you're going to post about. Maybe it's a Verizon decommissioning and you want to take a poll on what's happening out there with that. Then you write your message. You can, as you can see, you can add files, you can add whatever you want to it. And then down in the to section, just above the blue send button, you'll see it says all users. Well, you can get rid of that by just hitting the X, and you can add whoever you want. It could be just SCTC consultant members. It could be just a group of your friends on in the SCTC. It could be just the vendor council, or maybe 3 people and 2 other groups. It's whatever you want to add. Let's go to the next one.
Sure.
Chats and calls. This is a separate section that mostly mirrors Facebook Messenger. It allows you to make and take instant messages. These aren't posts, these are more quick instant messages. Hey there, can you chat with me at 9 o'clock tomorrow? You know, that kind of thing. Quick questions, not something you would want a large number of people to comment on. So chats are instant messages, and calls, you can also make actual audio calls and or video calls from inside Bittrex in the chats and calls section, just like you would in Facebook Messenger. Okay, let's keep moving. And I want to show you what that actually looks like in Bittrex. This is a brand new chat that I made yesterday, so you could see what it looks like. And I chatted everyone, so anybody could respond to this. But I could have just chatted 2 people, 1 person plus a group, any combination of people. And let's keep moving.
Sure.
And the Bittrex drive. So what's the Bittrex drive? It's a folder storage system. It's no different than SharePoint or Google Docs. It has all kinds of permissions and all kinds of things like that, where you can create a private set of folders and subfolders. And yes, the VAC absolutely is going to be invited to the Bittrex platform. I see that question come up. And to finish my thoughts on Drive here, it's just like a folder system. So let's take a look at it, Steve, on the next slide.
Sure, Barbara, the quick question from Eric, does the VAC have access to the Bittrex platform?
Yeah, I just said yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you didn't hear me. I said yes.
That's fine.
Okay, so here's the drive. And if you look on this kind of the second red area, it says My Drive Bittrex support. All of you are invited to be part of a work group. It's just a fancy name for a group that kind of think of it like Teams or, you know, a Facebook group. You're all invited to be part of the Bittrex support group. Right now it has 2 documents in it. This is the drive. It has a full user guide for those of you technology wonks that like to read user guides. And it also has the quick start guide that was included in the email. But Once you're in here, you can create your own folders. You can share them with selected people and groups. And if you're part of a group, you'll have a work group drive, meaning a folder and subfolders. And moving on.
Yep, there we go.
Just to put you at ease, this supports pretty much everything. Mozilla, Chrome, Edge, using it on a browser, iOS, Android, using it on your phone. Just a little note for those that like Mozilla, which is me, I prefer it. When you use Bittrex on Mozilla, the only thing that doesn't work is video calls. But everything else works. But there is a client, a desktop client that you can download that actually I think makes life a little easier to use in Bittrex. So get used to it on the browser of your choice, then take the time. Once you're used to it and you can log in and you can do some of these things, then I recommend definitely downloading the client, the desktop client. Okay, so a quick review of what are the things you can do in Bittrex. Find other members quickly by just typing their first name and seeing their pictures and learning their specialty areas. Why would you want to know somebody else's specialty areas? Well, I specialize in senior assisted living. So if I get a call center as a referral, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to want to go on Bittrex and see who's got a specialty area that I can refer it to in our family here. Post questions or new technology information. Those are your posts, like our own private Facebook page. Instant message, which is the chat, phone or video with one or multiple members at your convenience. Create your own teams, which are called work groups, to work on projects or join existing teams, again, work groups. Store and collaborate on documents, again, that's called the drive, and take polls, make announcements, and share privately to trusted members. Most importantly, get out of your email box. So meet me in the cloud, the Bittrex cloud. So very shortly, you will be getting an invitation. Please, I beg of you, wait for the invitation. It's not in Denise's email. What's in Denise's email that was sent this morning that says Bittrex 24 announcement was the quick start guide. That's all that was in there. There's no links in there. There's no passwords. There's no invites. It's just a message. The invites will be sent out to everyone, VAC, and consultant members, associate members, whatever classification of membership you have. It is free for you, and it will be sent over the next 24 hours. And it might have Dave Mailer's name on it, and it might not, but it's going to be coming from Bittrex.
So,
And good questions here. Can I answer the question, Steve?
Yeah, so Mark Fletcher says, asks, what are the notifications to new content, or we
have to go into Bittrex? Great question. So there are multiple layers of notifications that you get to set in your own profile. You can get an email every time you get a post that you have access to, whether it's all users or just in your work group. Or maybe somebody chatted you. You can get an email notification if you're just not used to it yet, or if you haven't downloaded the client. You can get a text. You can get it on your phone. There's lots of different ways, and you set your notifications profile to work for you in Bittrex. Please use the quick start guide and the full user guide to do that. And plus, I got to tell you, Bittrex help articles are really good. They've really written things out with pictures.
Yeah, and my comment is that I think the test of a true piece of software out there is the fact that you don't really need a whole lot of learning curve or education on this. Now, Barbara's been doing extensive user guides and training to members before this. Actually, our board has been using this now for the last several months, and I didn't have any formal training, and even I got used to it. So thanks, Barbara, for that. In fact, Barbara sent me her slides, which were actually 30 meg, which you normally can't do on email, which we were able to do through Bittrex very easily. Okay, so the other thing that we're talking about internally between Barbara and Dave Mailer leading the charge here, is developing these internal groups where members have things in common, and you can be in multiple groups if I'm not mistaken, right, Barbara?
Absolutely.
So if you saw Chuck Vondra's post a second ago in the chat bar, he's going to be posting teaming opportunities with others through this Bittrex platform. So again, it's an opportunity, for new business and new opportunities for fellow SCTC members. And then I think the AEX group, right, the audit group, has been doing their own thing too, and meeting regularly through Bittrex too. So it's a very powerful tool. And yeah, you don't have to actually load the app and have it on full time. You can actually, it'll give you notifications, and then you can pop it in, or pop it out, so to speak. So yeah, very powerful. And actually, it's no cost to any of the members. The fees are being absorbed as part of our budget and our cost as SCTC. So kudos, Barbara, to you and Dave for all of the work that you've been doing.
Yes, I would really like to give my committee, Dave Mailer and John Arnold, and even and Cheryl worked with us last year, and we appreciate her support. Everybody worked very hard on this, and we hope you enjoy it. And just one quick reminder before you do your first post, make sure you turn on the topic and add a topic at the top of your very first post, and send the Bittrex support work group a message that you're here and you're enjoying.
Yeah, and then there seems to be interest, Barbara, for doing an entire fireside chat around training on this. So we'll talk about that.
Absolutely, I'd love to when I'm not sick.
Yes, and thank you for doing this, while you are still sick, Barbara. Fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
So,
wait for your invitations. Wait.
And of course, this is a members only benefit, right?
Yes. Oh, Dave, everybody look at the chat, please. Dave Mailer said the invitation will come from me, Dave Mailer, and it will be care of no reply at sctc.bittrex24.com. If you don't receive it, please check your spam and send an email to headquarters. If give us 24 hours, give us some time.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Barbara, and feel better, okay?
Thank you.
I stopped the screen share, Scott, so you can take control here. So we're all set for you, Scott.
Okay, let me just get the right screen.
Okay.
Can everybody see that?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yowza.
Excellent. Okay, so now Steve did a great introduction earlier, saying that I was coming back to tell you more, but he actually really told me that I didn't do a good enough job the first time, and I had to fix it this time.
So I did say that to Scott earlier. No kidding, Scott.
So I'm going to pick up kind of where I left off and do a little bit deeper dive in a few things. I know I've got about 30 minutes here, not quite. So going to dive right in. So this was one of the last slides I talked about last time, but I really want to kind of come back to this because this is the basic premise that you need to start looking at to be able to do a good hybrid workforce. So if you want to maintain your security for a hybrid workforce, you got to be thinking about these 6 areas. And those 6 areas are user identities and devices. That's common. Everybody kind of been doing that for years. But then you got to kind of look at your data, applications, infrastructure, and network, and bring not them all independently together, but bring them all together into one security policy enforcement, so that you're really applying your policies as an organization to all of those things, no matter where your workforce is. If they're working from home, whether they're working on the road, like in a coffee shop, or whether they're working in the office. And it has to be ubiquitous across all of those things if you're going to maintain a secure environment and not have a bunch of data leaking out, data leaking out of your organization, or ransomware, or any of those kinds of fun things that we hate in the security industry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that there's encryption. You've got, you're looking at how you control access to your software as a service applications. That's a big thing. So I'm going to go into a little bit deeper on a few things here. So I think we did touch on this slide briefly, but from my perspective, the work from anywhere hybrid workforce is really important that you have a good handle on how your remote users are accessing your applications and your network and your data. And to do that, you really need something where they're all connecting, they're always behind the firewall. And Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE, as the industry likes to call it, is the tool set that seems to be most prevalent out there to allow you to be able to do that. So that generally combines a combination of a lot of things. And let's go to the next slide here really quickly. So this is a enhancement to what you saw before in this slide. So it does replace your VPN network, but the real key things here is you have to look at that it's, okay, so your SASE network is here on the left-hand side with your offices connecting into it with a common firewall, your small offices, your remote offices, your work from anywhere users, they're all connected to this internet firewall, but also a wide area network firewall. So there's 2 layers there that can be controlled. Now that's only part of it. And so I've tried to draw out a little bit more of the rest of it here. And I'm using Microsoft's as an example here. You can do something very similar with Google and other tools and a variety of other, like you can mix and match some tools here. This is showing the Microsoft ecosystem, but you can certainly replace all of these functions with Google and other cloud-based directory services. So you've got things like, let's go here. So there's some third-party single sign-on and stuff like that. So you want to look at how you're going to, how your applications are going to authenticate. You want single sign-on to make your user experience, ubiquitous across all of your applications. You want to make sure that you're using, logging and log analytics. You want to make sure that you're using authentication and security in the cloud with things like Azure Sentinel. Endpoint detection, very important. Two-factor authentication, also very important. Conditional access. So this is a newer topic. It's been around for 5 years, but conditional access policies are really, really important. So not only controlling access to the applications that you control in-house, but actually controlling how people access those applications in the cloud. So there's a lot of shadow IT out there right now where users are picking up other applications and trying to use those to your job. That's data leakage, and you really need to have a control over that. So having a conditional access policy, or CASB as it's often called in more generic terms, having that ability to control those applications that your users are accessing, so that you don't have data leakage, and you don't have them using applications with corporate data that they otherwise can't control. Certainly antivirus and endpoint protection is very popular and very common. There's CrowdStrike. There's a lot of other applications out there that do a good job of that. I'm just using, again, the Microsoft solution. But one of the key things that I think that a lot of people overlook is, how are you going to manage those endpoints when they're out there in the wild all the time? And one of the key things that I always talk about is device management and application management. For example, with Microsoft Intune, which are endpoint management from Microsoft, I can get a brand new laptop on the initial boot up, log into with my two-factor authentication into our environment, and all of my, it loads the operating system, my license, all of my applications within about 1 to 2 hours. They're all completely pushed down to my laptop, and I have a full-blown working laptop in a very, very short period of time. So that's critical to being able to manage a remote workforce and allowing that experience to happen. So they can go pick up a laptop at Best Buy if they get theirs stolen, and they can, within 2 or 3 hours, they can be completely up and running on a corporately managed laptop, and they're not using other services. Any questions about this? I've also added here just a little bit about the Security Operations Center, which you need to take all of the signals that you're getting from all of these different tools, including SASE, which is the cloud firewall, including all of these tools that I just talked about, bringing them into something, taking all the signals and analyze them in your Security Operations Center, and making sure you have a remediation plan to go with that. So that's an extension of all of this to make sure that the whole ecosystem work well together. Just gonna, before I go on to the next slide, any questions about anything I just said, because I said it really, really quickly.
it's just a huge topic. You know, if we don't have security covered in the cloud, you know, what good are all of these applications, right, Scott?
Yeah, and I have yet to see a way of doing this with on-premise applications or tool sets. It's really, really difficult because you don't have enough bandwidth in your corporate data centers to be able to accomplish this. Not to mention the tool sets would be astronomically expensive, where you've used the subscription model, like Microsoft, like Google, like any of the other, all the other ones that all the tools have gone to. It becomes cost effective from a very small company. I've rolled a very similar environment out that you're seeing right here, out for a organization of 30 people and for 5,000. And it basically is the same. It has capacity to grow. It's just a subscription that grows it once you've got the base configuration up and running. So diving a little deeper into a couple of the areas that I talked about here. So one of the key pillars of this is identity management. That's been important for years. It's nothing new, but moving it to the cloud makes it much easier. So you can do some interesting things around group management, around automatic provisioning, which so you can allow for those of you that are in the people management side of things, you can have your HR app feed Azure Active Directory a new user on hire and have them allocated to the correct groups and have all of their permissions automatically deployed using something called skim provisioning. And then that skim provisioning, we can then push out all of the different applications and the security permissions to all the applications that user should have. And then it flows all the way through. So in other words, it becomes a one-stop shop for being able to deploy things. But Azure Active Directory or Google directory, those are the key things. You have to start with that cloud-based directory services that has the advanced features like skim provisioning, like SAML authentication for all the single sign-on permissions. And of course, the advantage of Azure Active Directory is it also connects into Active Directory on site, which the Google one does not. So that's the one variance. But you can have all of this stuff flowing all the way through. Extending on that to create that single sign-on experience, you can set up the provisioning to all kinds of different services. So that in other words, if they log in as their corporate account, all of those cloud apps flow all the way through. Many of you have seen this. This is not new, but it's so important to being able to control the whole user experience, but also controlling the activity. So you have really cut down on that shadow IT. You really cut down on everything they're using because you make it easy for the end user, whether they're working in the office, at home, or in a coffee shop. It becomes the same experience no matter where they are. Questions on that one? Multi-factor authentication is critical. If it's a cloud app, it should have multi-factor authentication on it, period. End of discussion. And I'm seeing a lot of organizations just making that a policy. So single sign-on makes two-factor authentication much, much, much easier. Interesting point. One of the things that people are saying, well, I've got all of these passwords. Going to single sign-on and multi-factor authentication essentially moves you to a passwordless or near passwordless type environment, so that you always are using a security key or facial recognition or fingerprint or something like that to provide that replacement for your password. And it actually improves the user experience, doesn't make it harder, because that's the argument I get. Well, multi-factor authentication makes it too hard for the end user. No, it doesn't. You can actually make it better. You deploy it properly, it actually makes it better.
Actually, I was on a call with a CIO yesterday, and he was not at his native desk. He was at another site, and yeah, he went through a couple of factors here on authentication, and sure enough, it took him like 4 minutes, which was, not an easy thing.
So doing it properly.
Access to physical information on the hardware you're using, and I'm thinking about location services with access to a Wi-Fi chip or GPS for location data. Thinking about 911 applications, obviously.
Ask the question one more time. I didn't catch everything you said there, Fletch.
What's the access to machine hardware information, such as Wi-Fi address stored in the memory chips and any GPS that might be in that particular device? Can the root application access that information on the local device?
So that's a very good question, Fletch. Is actually, I have a slide to talk about that. So that's where the device management becomes really, really important. With your corporate environment, you must have a good device management for security in place so that you can enforce policies, but also so you can get that information into a central repository. This is about, as much as it is about securing the endpoints and controlling them, it is also about collecting the information you need to be able to do other things like you just talked about. So this kind of a situation, if you look at this here, we're collecting not only, pushing applications out to the device, and I'm showing a mobile phone here, but this could be a laptop, this could be a tablet, this could be anything you want. Because it used to be called MDM, it's no longer MDM, it's just device management. People still using the acronym MDM, but it's really just device management, because you're managing all devices, even IoT type devices, using a platform like this. So you can do on-premise network things, network control, mobile threat detection, telecom expense management. You can actually pull stuff from your devices, information from your devices, data about their use of their cell phone and things like that, if you so desire. And that allows you to configure, protect the data, manage applications all remotely in a cloud-based solution. That's so important for the mobile user. So that, because all of a sudden you don't have that, they're using a phone at their desk anymore. They're using mobile phones. Maybe they're using a physical phone that's not, in the office anymore. So all of those things like 911, all those kind of things, you start gleaning data, pulling data out of those devices so that you can sense location, not in all cases location, but laptops you can get location, mobile devices like phones, both Apple and Android. You can get location information out of that, and then you could drive that through to your E911 solution potentially. Now that would require some API, integration, but certainly something you could do. Does that answer your question, Fletcher? Did I?
No, it does. It does. And the last thing you said actually answered it. You could utilize API integration to get that data. So I might have to develop something that mines it, but it's there, it's available. There's no blockage from me getting it necessarily.
Permission based, obviously, but yes, so the data is secured, so it's not just out there in the wild, but certainly it's something that you could write an API with security to deal with that, to be able to integrate. So the API is available in most of these packages like Intune and the Microsoft versions of things. It's also available in like the Apple and the Android version of things, because you'll notice here, oops, go back to that slide. You'll notice here that even though Intune is controlling the device, it actually has to use Google Play and the App Store from Apple to be able to facilitate that. So there's actually integration from Intune into the Google and the Apple Cloud to be able to allow all that to happen, because particularly Apple is very, very, very sensitive to who has access to their devices.
No, that's not true. No, that's a myth.
It's a myth.
No, that's good, because if you think back to the Citrix environment, right? When Citrix first came out, the first challenge that I saw was voice. If I had a voice application, I couldn't attach a local headset, right? It could be an IP-based headset, but I couldn't use the hardware jack on the side of the machine. Okay, that was fixed. And then it was, well, I want to see the MAC address of the local Ethernet port, not the network of the network. And now that's fixed. So I just want to make sure there are provisions here that don't lock that stuff away, because that's critical.
So keeping in mind that this whole model is accelerated exponentially since the pandemic started. So all of these tools were kind of there in 2019, early 2020, but only kind of there. All of this stuff has gone full speed ahead to try to keep up with the demand for it, demand for this functionality during the pandemic to allow the hybrid workforce to happen, to allow people to work remotely more effectively. And so most organizations couldn't do this March 2020. It just wasn't feasible in most cases because the tools weren't mature yet. Because, you know, Scsc was there, but it wasn't as mature as it is today. The Microsoft Cloud was there, but they're innovating at lightning speed. Google's cloud service, it's called Workplace now. Wasn't as mature as it is today. All of these tools are maturing really quickly. So it's like trying to stay ahead of a freight train, and you've only got a bicycle. It is moving very, very quickly, but you have to because of the security issues that are out there. The hackers are moving even faster still. They've got a Lear jet that they're flying at the same time, so they're moving even faster. So we got to try to keep up with the tools. I did skip a slide here because I want to wrap up in the next 10 minutes, but I'm saying I'm going to come back to it briefly. So I was talking about here. This is just a quick overview of how you provision into the cloud to allow that single sign-on experience. Again, very, very critical for easing that worker that needs to sign in once to their laptop, and then you get to you're not trusting the laptop, because that's not what Zero Trust is all about. You're not trusting the laptop, but you're using certificate-based authentication based on the initial credentials that have the two-factor authentication to allow them to use those certificate-based authentication, which is secure, with those applications that are sitting in the cloud, whether it's something like Workday or Google or Salesforce or DocuSign or whatever it happens to be. Advanced threat protection, that's Microsoft's term for it, but it's really just advanced threat analytics to look at all of these different things. And this is a critical component. You'll see a lot of similarity to this diagram to the Zero Trust, because a lot of the elements are the same. Advanced threat protection is looking at, user identities and making sure that they're looking at what is, that's meeting all the criteria here. Does the device meet the criteria to be able to access the services? Are the applications a trusted application? Do they have the right credentialing in place? Does the infrastructure have the right services? Are the on-premise applications integrated appropriately? And the data, is the data secured, and is it coming from a trusted source? But all of those things are put into an AI threat engine that with all the conditions and controls. And the real interesting thing about this is that if you fail one of these criteria, you don't get access. So you must have all of these criteria. So it's not a simple environment, but certainly something that is needed to be able to allow all of these things to work together. And then you've got to obviously integrate it with your security operations center, which is, kind of important as well too, so that you're getting the alerts and notifications that when somebody fails one of them, that it's important. And it could be even the destination. Like, for example, Scsc quite often blocks me from going to a website when I mistype a website. And I'll say, oh, Cloud Firewall, I know that that's a bad website. I'm not going to, it doesn't meet the criteria. It's not, not this, it's not that. It's a known hacking site, and it prevents me from making that mistake.
So it's got a couple of questions. We have a minute.
Sure.
So Jean-Paul, JP is asking, some SD-WAN products must be upgraded when network bandwidth exceeds a certain threshold. What is the Cato model, if you remember the Cato model?
Sure. So let's go back to this diagram here. And so if you look here, so the SD-WAN, the way the Cato does it, and I'm using Cato as the example again. It's not the only player out here for Scsc. There's other ones out there. There's Zscaler and a bunch of other ones. But the way Cato does it is basically it puts a device on the edge of a network for the SD-WAN, as they all do, and then you can hook up multiple connections to it, and you can control those connections in different ways. You can have it by default. It says here's the best path for that application. So it's like it looks at the two endpoints and kind of says, okay, what's the best way for me to get that packet from A to B, and including all the firewall rules and stuff like that. But just as far as the connectivity is concerned, it looks at the best path, and then it goes on the wide area network. What's your deeper question there? Can you ask?
Yeah. So excuse me. So some appliances they have a limitation as to how much bandwidth you can plug into it without upgrading the physical appliance. So 50 meg, 100 meg, 200 meg, a gig, and some SD-WAN appliances, we don't care. You can load it up. So I was just curious. I saw the Cato that you were using Cato here in this image, and so I was just curious because I think I heard, hey, it's scalable. To, you set it and forget it. So I just wanted to make sure is that
Right.
regardless of how much.
Their base device, if I remember correctly, and I don't resell this stuff, so I don't have it all top of my head. I'm using Cato as an example just because I needed to pick an example. But in this particular case, Cato, I believe their base devices goes up to a gig of traffic, and then you can go up from there. They do have bigger ones that can go higher than that. So obviously a gig is good for a small office, small and medium office, whereas you would want to go 10 or 20 gig for a larger office or something to that effect with fiber and things like that. They do have devices that'll scale up to that, but for the most part, you can do that. And then there's obviously the software client, which it's laptop dependent, not and what internet connection dependent, not device dependent. Does that answer your question? So yeah, there is different levels of devices because you're eventually, if you're going to get a 10 gig fiber connection, you need to be able to have a 10 gig port on there at some point in time.
Sure, I got you. That's fair enough. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, there is some limitations in most devices that I've come across. I haven't seen them all. There's a lot of vendors out there in the SD-WAN space. And like I said, this is what Cato does, and they're doing the full SASE with a whole bunch of cloud-based services. The edge premise stuff is the SD-WAN component.
And then John, our friend John Glover has a quick question. Is attribute access control contained in this model?
Say that one more time, Steve.
Is attribute or attribute access control contained in this model?
If I'm understanding the question, yes. So if you look at here, I'm gonna go to this here. Probably the best way is so everything you're seeing here, all of the different pieces that I was showing you kind of flow into this zero trust, the zero trust model. And so yes, if you're looking at everything you're doing here, you're looking at attributes of the devices, you're looking at attributes of the user, you're looking at attributes of the data, the applications, the infrastructure and the network, but also the traffic that's occurring here. Specifically, when you put in SASE overlay on this and include that in your model, it looks at the application in transit and says, what kind of application is this? And so looking at all the attributes, and like when I look at, go back here to this picture, attributes are important because that goes into your logging, which contributes to your signals, which go into your security operations center. So you got to be looking at all of those signals, all of those attributes. You're going to get notifications and you're going to get logs. Now, a lot of these individual services in here, I'm drawing the wrong screen. In here are going to generate notifications, but they're also going to generate logs, and those logs need to be brought together, whether you're using it in Microsoft or Azure Sentinel, or whether you're using it in a broader some other tool that's a security operations center tool, SIM tool, and then writing scripts against that to pull that data together. You got to use artificial intelligence for that, because at this point in time, the hackers are moving so fast, you got to stay out ahead of it. But yes, these attributes need to be collected, need to be evaluated on a continuous basis, and then used as part of the zero trust model.
And one last question from Roberta. Have you done any ROI on single sign-on recently based upon multiple to single? And if so, what's the general ROI if you've done anything?
So multiple to single sign-on? Is that what?
Yeah. Have you saved it? Have you seen any ROI?
No. So the answer is no. I have not done any ROI on single sign-on, simply because the more passwords you have, the more likely you are to get compromised, because you're more likely to have either weak passwords or not multi-factor authentication. Passwords are the bane of the security industry, because they're compromised. They're relatively easily gleaned, especially as we move into quantum computing. Passwords and even non-quantum enabled certificates are becoming as the next step we're going through, because quantum computing is going to make the current certificate model obsolete. So we need to be moving into more secure certificates even. But moving from passwords to certificates is the current step. But as quantum comes online, you need to be able to move into quantum-based certificates, so that the quantum computing can't even break that encryption model. But it's so the ROI is not about it's somewhat about user experience with single sign-on. That's a big part of it. But the other part of the ROI is whether you get hacked or not.
Right.
And users having access to data. And as much as people say, well, I paid the ransom, I got access to my data again. That's great, but they're just going to come back after you again and again and again. So once they've got you for the $100,000. Yes, okay, I recovered from that issue. It's continuous. It's just they're going to come back for you again. Well, I'm going to sell your data on the dark web this time. If you don't pay me another $200,000. I know one organization that they came back after them 4 times after they paid the initial ransom.
Yeah. Well, Scott, we're at the top of the hour. I'm thinking that this Q&A is so interactive, especially with yourself. Maybe in a few weeks, maybe we set up a time where it's just an open Q&A forum, and then you can, kind of like what we were doing over the last few minutes, because I think it's a hot topic. I don't think there's enough bandwidth to even, discuss all of this in just 30 minutes and less time. So we'll definitely plan on having you back just for an open forum, if that's all right with you, Scott.
I'm happy to try. This is such a huge industry that there's going to be people here that are going to be better and more educated on some of these elements than I am. So if we're going to do that, I would say an open forum that everybody can be kind of the expert in their area.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm saying, there's a lot here, and no one person can have it all in their head.
Okay, I agree. Yep.
Put together a panel.
Maybe we'll do a panel. It's even better. And okay, excellent. Yep. So we'll do that. And actually, as part of the invite, we'll ask, for questions ahead of time to get received at headquarters. So fantastic. Well, thank you, Scott. Another great session. And we'll see you all next week on next week's Fireside Chat, everyone. Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care. Have a great
Good job,
week.
Scott.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great
you.
work.
Thanks.
Yep. Everyone.